I think that, look, you have close friends in the industry. I've lost a few close friends in this industry in the last 2 or 3 years. And also, forget football. There's other things, spending more time. There's a lot of sacrifices you make. And so not many get to choose their terms. And I looked at it as an opportunity also to see my kids more, to travel some more, to get in better shape. There's an attrition 2 a.m, and I know I hear people say, well, you don't have, yeah, I get it, but I need to. That's the way it works for me. And I think the attention to details are so important that it can be exhausting. And so I felt, as this season was winding down, that it was the right thing. And then the last week and a half, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And now, here's the thing. Our division. So we had won 4 divisions in a row and competed our tail off. Tampa Bay this year won the division, and congratulations. And yet, man, we battled against them. Atlanta and Carolina, they're working to get things going. And so I like the roster. Yeah, there's some challenges, but man, we played good defense this year. Man, our kicking game, Riz and Phil, were outstanding. Consistently in the top 5. And you see a lot of exciting football, but you also see a lot of bad football, and it's hard for the fan to see it. And there's a young group of offensive players. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. It was a personal decision of feeling like, it's time. So it's sometimes hard to, but not with any regret. There's some excitement, like, all right, what next? And I honestly don't know what's next. Next question.
So have you felt that for a couple of years? Or did this
No. Look, you feel that way going to training camp every year. No, it's been the last season. No, it's been the last season. Now, the hard thing about this game, and you guys know this, the losses are always challenging. The work week, Monday, and there's a little bit of grit that defines players and coaches. And when you get the right group, you respond. We've had some challenging losses. We've had some great wins, and I've always loved how we've responded. I think I love when I hear people say, man, your guys play hard. They're tough. And those are important traits that hopefully, we're part of developing, but it still gets back to the players and the people. But no, I would say it's been more this season.
Sean, how do you want to be remembered?
It's too early for that yet. I know this. The question is, how do I want to be remembered? And someone who had passion and someone that cared a lot, winning's important in that. It's important in that. I thought about my mom, if she were alive today. 2 things. I wore this shirt because she always said, you have to wear this color, it matches your eyes. She'd be in her 90s today. Her and my dad are both passed away. But they talk all the time about like leaving a place maybe better than when you got there to begin with. And I think we've done that. And it's not finished. We've got all these coaches that are sitting here with contracts, and Mickey and the leadership in place to continue that. But yeah, we're not writing an obituary today. It's a step. It's just another direction.
Sean, along those lines, you say you don't want to call it a retirement, but does the team need to make a clean break? This
No, Mike, that's hard to do any of that, right? I think in fairness to Dennis, who's a great candidate in the building, or any other coach that possibly would be hired, I think that there's no half in this game. You know, you're jumping in the deep end and you're swimming. And if you elect to stay out, then that's fine. But I think that, I think that that's the approach that I think has to be taken.
And I think you basically said this, but I don't want to put words.
Go ahead.
You're not going to consider coaching anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't, and look, they're going to be, I can't control, look, I felt like 10 years went by and we talked about the other team for a lot, and I get it, I understand it, but no, my plans are not to be coaching in 2022, and that's just how I feel.
Coach, you jogged around the Superdome, high-fiving fans. You've been able to command them to raise their voices and cause problems for the other team. Those fans are watching probably from every corner of the globe right now. What is your message to Saints fans about the Lord?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be your head coach for 16 years. I appreciate each and every one of them. And so thank you for sticking with us in the good times and in the tough times. They've been outstanding. And so it's really that feeling of being grateful for having a chance to have been a part of this organization and coach for them. Thank you.
Sean, in the conversations you've had with people about this decision, were there any certain statements that really stuck with you or influenced you in any particular way?
No, look, when I talk to Skylene or when I talk to my children, this isn't something that you can talk with 8 people about today. Even my siblings found out, you know. So no, it was really back to trust your gut. And go with your gut. In other words, when does it end? Does it end when you get fired? I said at the beginning, I think it's easier to be fired. As difficult as that is, you thank everybody and they say, well, we wish him well. He made it. But when you choose to leave, I referenced, you know, whether it's been Tony Dungy or whether it's been Bill Cowher or whether it's been, you know, who are the more recent examples just in how to approach this. But yeah, it was a decision ultimately that sat with me, and I'm comfortable with it.
Sean, what are you most proud of, and what's your biggest regret?
All right, my biggest regret first, besides the Ninkovich debacle, would be the double reverse against Tampa Bay. We ran a double reverse against Tampa Bay in the 4-minute and lost the game. Then Mickey brought me a study on Ambien and its erratic behavior and mood swings with people. I've got a lot of regrets. You know, I mentioned one of them. I wish I would have done a better job early on in my career with the media, and hopefully I corrected that. But yeah, there are always going to be personnel regrets, decisions, but yeah, the double reverse, the Ninkovich decision, there's a lot. There are. It's easy to say you're most proud of a Super Bowl team, but I'm most proud of the culture and the the winning seasons. Our first year here was 06. 07, we played in the Hall of Fame game in Canton. We played the Steelers. I believe it was their 50th. There was an anniversary for Pittsburgh. And so every once in a while as a coach, you get into one of these games you're not really sure about. And we had a player that we had just signed. I can't tell you his name, but he was on Pittsburgh's roster. And it was during training camp. So we're talking about a 90-man roster. It was a wide receiver. We go to Canton. We're playing the Steelers. And come to find out, he was cut because the Steelers had found out he had stolen some stuff from the locker room and from some good players there. And so during pregame warm-up for a preseason game, like I noticed the level of intensity is a little bit unusual for a pregame. And anyway, we played that game and got waxed. And we did a tour of the museum, the Hall of Fame. And aside from the Katrina exhibit, there wasn't a Hall of Fame player. Ricky was going to go in, I think, a year or two later. And so I talked to the players a little bit about culture. And now many of them weren't aware of the Steelers story, you know, with Chuck Noll and the years there that they were close. And then finally, you know, they get over the hump. And man, that time frame is shorter now for young coaches, for new coaches. But if you can, that you can build something that that will stay for a while. And so I would say, Larry, it would be how we're viewed today by anyone who's 21, 22 or younger is pretty cool, pretty good.
What are you going to miss most about coaching?
What will I miss most? I'll miss the people. There's a feeling when something happens in a game and you watch one of your players do something and grow, that any teacher, I think, would tell you is awfully rewarding. Regardless of whether he's a starter, a backup, or a practice squad player, but to see them improve or get better and do something extraordinary, man, like that can fill you. So the relationships and then, you know, the teaching part of it.
How does this ending, if you will, compare to what you could have imagined or expected when you first arrived?
Impossible, right? I mean, impossible to predict. The question was, you know, how would I have envisioned the ending? Honestly, you don't even think about the ending. Like, you don't have time to think about, what if you don't have time to think about. So for the last, call it maybe week, I've thought about not the ending, but the presentation of the ending, like this. But I don't think when you're young and going fast and trying to build something, you're ever considering what it's going to be like. There's a motivation, a strong motivation, when you discuss like fear of failure. That's I think a very real driving force.
Just from your time in the business leading up to when you were open to the idea of 15 years?
I honestly had no idea about 15 years. You're just focused on just going and winning and getting more players and people that can help you win. And it doesn't seem like 15 seasons, honestly. It seems probably more like 11. And it's never, you know, I always say this when I see the children of our coaches, you know, when I see Dennis Allen's children or Pete Carmichael's children or CJ's children or Dan Dalrymple, that's what ages you. Because you remember, their ages when you first started. But you see those other people like the same way. You don't see the age, really, because you're around them so much.
Coach, talk about how tough the season was. How excruciating was it for the Bucks game to be sitting on that sofa watching the game at home? To be
Listen, honestly, it wasn't excruciating because we were winning. It was exciting. I was just like you. Now, not you covering the game, but I was just like you, the fan. And you don't know how that game, you're playing a team that just won the Super Bowl. And you don't move your cup because it's in the right spot. You don't, all those things took place. And so that was a really good moment. It was a moment that I was so proud for our players and our coaches and everyone that was a part of that win. That was unique, obviously, but it was more just like a fan. There's not like there's communication early in the week relative to some early parts of the game plan, but man, those guys on our staff did a great job. Everyone jumped in and really picked up, the roles maybe were different a little bit. And, Ryan Nielsen almost got a bench foul for getting into a shouting match with Brady. But when you watch that game, you saw passion. And so, like I told our team, they won the division. They didn't beat us, so.
Sean, kind of brought up how the way you know how to do it is late in the night, early in the morning, that sort of thing. Did that become harder as your career progressed? And if you looked at any of your mentors, people like Gruden or Parcells, or guidance on that?
Yeah, the question relative to hours and workload, they were all different. The guys I worked with, Bill or John or any of these coaches, we kind of had a formula here. It varied depending on the game. Some weeks weren't as long. Part of it's me just wanting to go through it one more time. As a coach, though, you would always be interested in the off season when you're at the Combine or the Senior Bowl talking with your peers, other coaches, like, hey, what's your schedule like because we've been in, the last 5 years have been, ever changing relative to the off-season program. That's changed. And then look, with COVID, it's even changed more, right? So trying to always figure out the best schedule is something that you talk about to your staff. You talk about it like, hey, do we, you guys think we should be in pads today? Do we should be, that's something that you're always looking at.
How much did this season weigh on you, given Hurricane?
The season didn't weigh on me. Mickey knows this. I'll be honest with you, and I want this to sound the right way. So we've evacuated a couple times, right? We went to Indianapolis, and then I'd say we've had 3 warnings. And in all 3 events, I want to go. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is the perfect chance. Not talking about a crisis. But, you take a team and their family members and an organization to another city, there's a lot of work and money involved in that. This gets back to Mrs. B and Dennis. Will it help us? Yes. Here's why. And then someday a story on why we chose Jacksonville. And I think Jeff got a lot of it right. Those challenges are exciting. Because I've heard, look, and I'm not offended, but I've heard a lot of people say, man, he looked exhausted. And that was probably more he looked out of shape. than exhausted. I'm not offended. I'm all right with that. I'm okay. But that gets back to Doug Miller's Zoom camera angle, honestly. And we miss Greg Benzel being here today. He's getting his gallbladder done. So I told Doug, I want a little elevation. I don't want any cameras that are just like staring at my neck from 2 feet away.